All right, hey, welcome. This is Fridays in Football. I'm Ace. That's Jaden. Tyler is not here today. He's out playing tennis or something like that. But we're here to bring you the latest in football. This is for March 6th. Man, what a week! What a week, Jaden. And I think the big story right now is Liverpool. Liverpool had an incredible run, 44 straight games without a loss, and then good old Watford destroyed them. Well, maybe that's not the right word, but they beat them 3-0, and that was the end. And then right after that, Liverpool lost again to Chelsea 2-0. Is this a cause for concern, or is this just a little blip on a really long season? A season of greatness.
I don't think it's too concerning. In comparison to how they've played this entire season, it looks pretty bad. But in about January, they had the best start to the league ever, and it's been 2 months in any league in Europe, and it's been 2 months since then, and they've still been winning all their games until recently. But when you have such a good run, it'll end. Everything ends, and that's just football, and it's about how you can recover and get back to good form. And the whole season really comes down to their game against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League next week because of that, to get them back onto it. But if they can advance, then I think everything's bright and dandy again. Well,
yeah, I mean, they had a chance for, the treble, but when they lost to Chelsea, that went out the window. So you're right. Everything's really kind of counting on this Atletico game, which is coming up next week. Do you think they can find their form again? I mean, they really, they've been struggling, honestly.
I do. This game at home against Bournemouth, it should be a good game to get back on track. All three of their losses to Atletico Madrid, who else was it? Watford and Chelsea, and their 1-0 unconvincing win over Norwich before that were all on the road. And at Anfield, I'm pretty sure in the last 12 months, the only time they've dropped points was a 1-1 draw against Napoli. So, I don't know. I feel like we should expect something like we saw last year against Barcelona, some kind of explosion, but you never know. Simeone's side is tough. They're going to sit in there and they're going to defend. Let Liverpool have possession, and it's just going to be whether or not if Liverpool can break them down once. And, of course, if they are able to get a goal, Liverpool will need 3, so that could be tough.
Yeah, right. There's that. Well, what do you think's been wrong with Liverpool? Is it just, like sometimes in the middle of a season you just kind of lose motivation maybe, or focus, or, things just aren't clicking. What do you think's going on with them? Why are they dropping these games?
Well, the one thing that really stands out to me is the captain, Jordan Henderson's been injured. He's like the engine. He's had such a great season. Hasn't had a lot of goals or assists, but it's really everything else that counts in the engine room. All his tackles, interceptions. He's such a good passer, and they've really missed him. And whoever's filled in, Lallana, Keita, Oxlade-Chamberlain, haven't really covered for him well enough, I guess.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. There was a time when I wasn't real high on Henderson. I think it's right when Klopp came in and he wasn't playing real well, but somehow Klopp, saw and was able to get the best out of him. And I think you're right. Those little things that don't show up in the score sheet are the things that he's doing. And yeah, I think they're missing him. Is he coming back? When's he come back?
I actually don't know. Hopefully soon.
Yeah, right. Hopefully soon. Well, okay. Well, let's preview the game a little bit more with Liverpool and Atletico. What gives you? What do you think gives Atletico a good chance to win?
The team is like the structure of the team, Simeone's type of football. It's built for these kind of games. Just sit in, defend. and just don't concede. And with most teams, that'll catch up to you. But with Simeone's style, and just the way I've said, I know I'm being repetitive, but it's built for that. And if any team can do it, it's them.
So yeah, and well, on the flip side, we've got Liverpool. They're at home, like you said. Anfield is a fortress, and there's going to be something magical. I think that happens, on that night, and that's coming up next week. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, what other great Champions League games we got coming up next week?
Unfortunately, thanks to absolutely ingenious scheduling, they decided to put PSG, Dortmund, and Liverpool Atletico Madrid on at the same time, whilst on the other day we have Tottenham, Leipzig, and Valencia, Atalanta simultaneously, which neither of those games are as much of a draw as the aforementioned two, so it's a big bummer.
Yeah, that is a big bummer. So, is it Wednesday then, or Tuesday for the
Liverpool and PSG play on Wednesday.
Okay, and then Thursday for the other two.
Tuesday.
Oh, it's flipped. Okay. All right. What? So, fill me in here. Dortmund. Do you think Dortmund gets through? I mean, that's a heck of a tie right there, Dortmund and PSG.
This second leg, the way the first one went up, or the way the first one played out is I can't even predict it because there's so much attacking firepower on both sides. You have on one side you have Sancho, Hazard, and Haaland, all great players, especially Sancho and Haaland. And then on the other side you have Icardi, Di Maria, Cavani, Mbappe, and Neymar. It's just I feel like it could go any way. I feel like PSG could definitely lose again, but on the other hand, I could really see them finally getting it done. Third year of the charm. Neymar's finally fit. Hasn't played in the second leg of the Champions League since 2017. And I don't know. It's a tough one, but I think I'm going to have to go with PSG. I think third time's the charm. They're just... I feel like they're more an experienced team. They have players who have been there. Thiago Silva and such. And I think they'll get the job done.
Wow, and that's coming on the road, right? I mean, it's going to be at Dortmund?
No, the last one was at Dortmund.
Oh, okay. So
where they won 2-1.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think, I think you're right. It's toss-up. Maybe the home field gets the advantage there. But I would love, maybe it comes down to penalties, and then it comes down to who's got the better goalkeeper. Who do you think has the better goalkeeper in a penalty shootout?
PSG, Keylor Navas. So underrated with all his time at Madrid. Had a great career.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'd probably have to agree. So I think it's going to come down to penalties.
I think 2-1 PSG on the night.
Mm-hmm. I think they even it up that way, and then Navas leads them to victory with some with one or two spectacular saves.
Mm-hmm.
And there you have it.
I'm gonna say 4-2 PSG, 5-4 in aggregate, with a late winner too. After Dortmund score a would-be kind of late winner, I think we'll get all the excitement in this, which I won't be watching because I'll be watching Liverpool.
Well, I'm sure you'll be switching back and forth, hopefully paying attention to your whatever else is going on at that time. Okay. Any other ties of note that you're keeping your eye on in the Champions League?
In this coming week, that's about it. I guess the Red Bull Leipzig-Tottenham matchup should be good to see if they can reverse it. Their season is really sputtering out. Knocked out of the FA Cup this week by Norwich on penalties, and then they're knocked out of the Champions League. Then maybe Jose Mourinho isn't the special one. He's going to bring them trophies.
Yeah, right.
Which, that could be a shock. Said something's going to give. Tottenham are going to win a trophy or Mourinho won't. And after season 1, this might be the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Just it's kind of weird. it's kind of weird with Mourinho. It just doesn't seem like his team. I don't know what I don't know what his team looks like, but he just kind of jumps in, and then some guys get injured. I don't know who can win with two of your top players out. With Harry Kane and Son. What are you supposed to do? Like, I don't care what club you are, you're not gonna win, and so I wouldn't count them out just yet. Yeah, maybe they're not gonna win this year any trophies, but I would give them a pass, on this year.
Mm-hmm. He's really manipulated the situation quite well with the press, because before, when he was back at United, he was complaining about everything. Oh, this player, complete garbage. Hate this guy. And now what he's doing is, because they have this injury crisis, he's able to not get results and not blame it on himself, but he's still keeping everything happy because he can blame it on injuries. And so we can say he has a bad team, but it's not the players' fault, which makes the players happy. And then he's not too bummed because he's still doing the best he can. And it's not a bad scene in the long run. It just sucks a little bit for them right now.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine.
But he's controlling the situation very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely being put to the test after getting knocked out of the FA Cup. I would imagine. I don't know how you spin that one. To become put on the positive side. But I'm sure he's taking some heat over there in England.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of, taking heat, with in Italy, I want to talk a little bit about the coronavirus, COVID-19, as it's known now officially. It's really affecting soccer in Serie A. Fans aren't able to attend matches. It's been a real serious scene. Especially with, I think there's like 2,500 cases of the flu being contracted over there, and about 80 deaths. So it's a serious matter, and now it's affecting soccer. I wonder how far will it go? I mean, Italy right now is, changing match schedules, and it's really throwing or changing things up in the league over there.
Deciding to play games behind closed doors for the next month, which they announced yesterday, is maybe the first sensible decision the Italian FA has made all season. Or I don't know if the FA, I think that might be a more political decision. But like what they've been doing in the past with like banning people from certain regions, like how does that even work? If people want to go to the game, they're still going to go to the game. And then canceling 10 matches to reschedule 5? What's the logic in that? There's some absolute buffoons running things over there with that, and all the stuff with like the racism and like that monkey thing on the campaign at the beginning of the season. I just have no idea what's going on over there. It's not a great scene. Also, the reschedulings Inter have had their last 2 Serie A matches called off, but in the table, although they have 2 games in hand, they're 8 points behind Lazio, which just adds that little bit of pressure when you're playing a game that you have to win, though it's a game in hand, because you can't slip up. It's harder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you always think that, oh, wow, that's an advantage. I got 2 games in hand, but you're right. You're still behind, and you're behind by a lot, and you've got to catch up. And I think, I don't know. I mean, some teams can handle a lot better than others, but. Yeah, despite it all, I mean, the league race this year is great. It's too bad that some of these other things have really overshadowed what is really shaping up as a really great year on the field anyway, mm-hmm. for Serie A.
It's just back to what I was saying before. It has been a great year. Like if Inter were to lose to Juventus this weekend, and Lazio win, they would still have 54. Juventus would have 63, 9 points clear, and then Lazio would be at 65, which is 11 points clear. Even with the games in hand, that's almost impossible to make up at this stage of the season. they're going to have a really hard time doing it. And they've kind of gotten thrown into a really bad situation here.
Yeah. Let's move back over to the United States. We had the opening weekend in MLS, and I want to talk about that. For me, as a Portland Timbers fan, it was a big disappointment. We lost in pretty bad way to Minnesota. And you might say, okay, Minnesota's a good team. They were in the playoffs last year. So, a loss might not be a bad thing, but, the Timbers are at home. It's opening game, and they really laid an egg, I thought. So that was a big disappointment. On the other side, you're a Seattle fan. And heading into the first game, you already had a Champions League game that you had to battle with, and that was a disappointment. Seems like a big disappointment for us here in the Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
This last week.
Yeah, it's really frustrating to see. We had a really easy path to advance deep into the tournament, and then it's frustrating to see every single other MLS team advance except us. But at the end of the day, if you're conceding 2 goals to Olympia at home and you can't outscore them, you can't beat them, you probably don't deserve to be in this competition. And I'm trying to find the silver lining here. We're still having a better season than the Timbers. You weren't even in the Champions League. And now, hopefully, we won't have all this fixture congestion. Because let's say we would advance to the final and lose. That's 6 more games that we don't have to play, that we would have tried to put our first team out there, which mean we would have fielded a second team in MLS, which would have put us very far back in the standings. So I'm looking on the bright side of it.
Right. I guess that's what you got to do when you, when you do bow out of the tournament like that. To your credit, you weren't totally first choice lineup out there. As much as I hate to say it, I am a big Ladero fan. I think he's a great player, and he wasn't playing for you. And I think when he's missing, you're just not Seattle. You're Eattle or something. I don't know. You're just not that good. I mean, you're okay, but you're not special.
You missed a very good chance to. You could have taken out the L of Seattle for Ladero.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, you're right. Okay, let's retape this segment here and then work that out. That's good. Yeah, but anyway, you guys bounced back. You got a big win over Chicago Fire, and you got the W. The Timbers, like I said, we lost. I think a lot of people are up in arms right now. They're blaming the coach. They're blaming certain players. They're not up to snuff. So I wonder, is it too early to react as strongly as people are, or do you kind of just wait because the Timbers are missing their one of their DPs, the Polish player Niezgoda, and I think we're all waiting to see what he can bring to the table because maybe he comes on board. We're that much better of a team. Because clearly we're having trouble scoring.
I think it is 100% an overreaction to say that things are messed up after one game of the season. The Timbers played pretty well for a majority of the second half. They got hit on the counter, but they didn't get outplayed. And once you have a striker in there, like you said, the goals are going to come, and I think things will get back on track for them within the next month. You have Nashville, an expansion team at home this weekend. Good chance to get your first 3 points of the year.
I hope you're right. Yeah, if you can't beat an expansion team at home, then clearly something's wrong. But I think things have been, if you're really looking at the team, things have been sliding for a little bit, or they haven't been able to, put their stamps on games. Some people don't really want to put much stock into preseason, but the way that they lost a couple of games of preseason is exactly how they lost in the first game of the season. So So, with that, I think, there are some legitimate concerns. Ta-da. Um, so, we have 3 forwards on the team. So I wonder how that's going to play out. You can't play them all, or can you? And I think all 3 of them would be pretty good. You've got Ibo Bise, you've got Mora, who's pretty good, and you've got the new Polish DP. So I don't know how they keep all those guys happy, because, and like I said, you can't keep them all happy, I would think, because you can't play them all, or can you?
With the Timbers, they have really good depth this year, I've noticed. They have a lot of their team from last year, and they've built on that. And that is going to be a problem, keeping everyone happy. But I think they could either, what you were saying, put all 3 of them up top. They could go with maybe a 4-4-2, have one coming in off the bench when you're down a goal or something. I don't know. The way I see it, it's always good to have a striker on the bench.
Yeah.
Barring injury, just so when you're down 2-0, 70th minute, 2-1, you can have that guy to come in and add that little extra oomph in the attack.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's so many options for Savarese to work out on the season, as it progresses. It could really go any direction, probably up.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're right. I think after the game I was up in arms, very upset, and then it took a couple of days, and then I'm like, okay, I'll wait until this next game. And if they can't put it together against an expansion team, okay, then we got to make some changes, I think. So, okay, well, we'll keep an eye out on that. So, earlier we were talking a little bit about VAR, and it's run a little bit different in the MLS than like the Premier League, and so what's better, do you think? Is the MLS and the way that they use VAR, is that better than what we've seen in the Premier League?
Bet is a different word, or it's a difficult word, but I think what MLS has done is they've created consistency, and put air quotes around that. But they like to use the rhetoric clear and obvious error to base it around, which the Premier League also tries to do, but then they deviate from that sometimes, so it's inconsistent. Like, a clear and obvious error is a guy being 2 yards offsides, or like a tackle straight through the back of someone that the ref missed, and they have to go back and give him a red card for. But then sometimes you see that happening in the Premier League, and then sometimes they say, "Oh nope, wasn't clear," or yeah, scratch that. Sorry. Sometimes in the Premier League, they'll try to go for everything. They're like, wait, was it 2 centimeters offside? And sometimes they'll say, no, it's not clear and obvious, and there's just no consistency. And regardless if they want to use VAR to eliminate clear and obvious errors or to call a perfect game, they need to get some kind of baseline here of just because the clear and obvious error, it's messing the whole thing up. They need some kind of consistency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get the argument that if you're gonna stop the game and look at everything, it just takes away from the flow of the game. Like that's the art of being a referee. I think is being able to take everything into context, and the way that the game is being played, and and so the ref is an artist, basically. He can kind of weigh that in his own mind. With that said, though, there's something to be said for getting things right, and I think you're right. It's the consistency factor. The Premier League seems. I mean, I don't have any statistics or data to back this up, but they seem to look at every goal, no matter what. And they'll take their time with it. That's probably not true, but it seems that way sometimes. And they take a lot of time to look at it, and they will overturn something, even if it isn't clear and obvious. VAR will take a look. And at first I was like, I'm not sure I like that. It's taken away from the flow. But But then I thought, well, you know, it either is or it either is a goal or it isn't, and it's legal or it's not. And if it's off by 2 millimeters, then because there is this tool, to measure that, and then I think it actually gives the game more credibility that way, and so I'm okay with that. I think in the MLS, I think they play with that a little bit more loosely. The MLS is, it wasn't clear and obvious, so we're not going to look at it, even though, maybe it was 6 inches or something like that, and they should look at it. Or it was a foul. But no, it wasn't, it didn't look clear and obvious, so we're not going to look at it. I think, especially in like a penalty box area, there's a foul or, something that could lead to a PK. Man, you should be looking. I think you should look at all of that stuff, because I think the Timbers got. They didn't get a call late in the game, and the reason was because it wasn't clear and obvious. But that's a subjective thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
it really goes both ways. Another thing they do in MLS is, so in MLS and the Premier League, they have monitors at the side of the field. In MLS, the protocol for VAR is, if the VAR think that a check is necessary, they'll instruct the ref to stop the game while they can check and see if they think the play should go to VAR. If they decide that it needs extra attention, the ref will run over to the monitor and decide if he thinks he made a mistake on that call. But the ref is still making the final decision. He's the one reffing the game. In England, they think that since the Premier League is so good and fast-paced and the best league in the world, they're too good for they're too good to waste all that time to have the refs run over to the monitor. So their protocol is, if the VAR thinks there might be something, he'll check it. If he checks and he sees something, he will continue to look at and make the final call, not the guy who is standing on the field. This is supposed to save time, even though we've seen like 3 or 4 minute checks. And a few weeks ago in Manchester United versus Chelsea, Harry Maguire fell and kicked or tried to kick Michy Batshuayi in the face. Should have been a red card, wasn't given, because they went to VAR and he didn't like it. But they say in England that it's too far or too long to let the refs run to the monitors, but that play occurred 5 meters from the monitor, which wouldn't have taken any time. So it's just at least have the guy who's reffing the game make the call. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that.
They try to save time, but it's just hypocritical because they ended up wasting the time anyways, because it still takes the same amount of time to see if the call was right or wrong if it's that close.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything, the MLS has right. It's just the guys, the VAR, they're backup guys, they're ready to alert, but leave it up to the ref. I totally agree with that, 100%. Okay, so, I guess you could say last week was kind of a wake-up call, kind of a downer, because Liverpool, kind of went through a downturn, and my Timbers lost and all that, and yours on it. But there's something about soccer sometimes, like when you're down, all of a sudden some game pops up, and it just, you just go, man, I can't believe I just saw that. That is so awesome. I got that feeling watching Norwich beat Tottenham yesterday. What a game. What a game. Like, Norwich has been at the bottom of the Premier League, but you know what? They're fun to watch. They play the game really well. They don't really bunker or anything like that. They've got some really fun young players, and they hang in. And anyway, they got a late equalizer, and then came down to penalty. Nothing really happened in the extra time, because it looked like everybody was just dog tired. And then it came down to penalties, and I love penalty shootouts. I just love them. except when my team's in them, and then I can't. It's tough. But I was totally pulling for Norwich, and Krul just did a. Is that how you say his name, Krul? Yeah, he did a great job, the goalie for Norwich, and I think he blocked 2, plus one guy went over the bar. So Tottenham only got 2, I think, 2 goals, and Norwich pulled it out. What a great game! I thought it was just one of those deals where, hooray for the underdog,
Mm-hmm. Well, when it comes down to it in penalties, those goalkeepers really matter. I don't know if you remember, but I think it was the quarterfinals or sometime in World Cup 2014 in the knockout stage when Jasper Cillessen, they took him off at 120 minutes to put Krul in for the penalty shootout. It was against Costa Rica, I believe.
Yeah,
I think,
right.
in the quarters. But they actually won that penalty shootout because of him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. It really, really matters.
Yeah.
And when you have him against Michel Vorm, Tottenham's third string, who retired at the end of last year but came back to be a backup because Lloris was injured, you could say the better team won in the penalty shootout. If you can say that.
Yeah. No, I think you can. He kind of blew it on the equalizer too that Norwich made. It was a tough shot. It was moving, but he couldn't handle it, and then somebody came in and knocked it in. So he kind of had a rough outing towards the end there. Anyway, that's it. What's coming up this week? So we got, I know we got big Champions League matches coming up. That's probably what's on most people's horizons. Is that what you're looking forward to?
Yeah, a lot. There's also this Saturday, there's the Manchester Derby, City versus United. That should be a good one. United have actually beat City twice this year already. And then Juventus versus Inter. If Inter win that game, although it is away, it's really game on in Serie A because if Lazio win, they could go 5 clear with one more game played, but still. Or even if Juve don't win that game, it's going to be such a good race down the stretch in Serie A.
Yeah.
But yeah, those two. And also MLS. My Sounders play Columbus Crew this weekend. That game actually could get called off for the coronavirus fears.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I saw an article about it yesterday.
Oh, why?
Probably nothing happened. Well,
Is it in Seattle or in?
Yeah.
Huh.
Imagine if a player gets it.
Yeah.
Oh, then everything will have to get canceled.
Yeah, right. Well, I hope not. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see if the Timbers can bounce back. I wonder if Gio Savarese will make any changes. Something tells me he won't. He'll just go with the same old and see if he'll get a different result. Maybe he'll change tactics a little bit and keep his. He likes to bring his fullbacks up high, and that makes him vulnerable to the counter. So we'll see if he changes tactics or if he changes personnel. We'll see. And looking forward to that.
I think it'll be 2-0 Timbers.
I hope you're right. Okay. I think that's about it. I'm Ace. That's Jaden. And this is Fridays in Football. Hope you enjoyed. And don't forget to like us and subscribe. All right. Take care.